Shit. Fudge cakes. Come on. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, everyone. You may notice that compared to a lot of my other live streams, I felt that it was important to put this little warning in front of the rest of the video, the rest of the stream, because I felt that the appropriate credit should go to the people who own the Bionicle Chronicles. And, you know, this series meant so much to me as a kid, and I remember really enjoying it when I read it at the time. So this is kind of a Valentine, more or less, to the creators of Bionicle. So I just want to thank each and every one of them for making this product, or making this series, rather, and bringing the world of Bionicle to life. And it's all because of the Bionicle Chronicles that made this. I like to think it has shaped me to what I have become today, and hopefully I can do this book justice. So yeah. Just give me a moment. I should probably put my phone on silent. Okay, now that I think most people have read this warning at this point, I think it's time to put the image on me. Hello, everyone. Yeah, the streaming quality seems okay so far. All right, so here I am. Hey there, Zam Kirby. How you doing? Me, I'm doing pretty okay. But to be honest, I was a little nervous about doing this live stream because, when I told my folks that I was going to do this, they were a little worried about, the fact that it's not really a property of mine, but, I'm just reading it. So I figured the least that I could do was make that little warning in the beginning, because I feel like it's important to give credit to the people who actually made this product. And I have monetization off for this thing, to, add, I guess you could say, a bit of practical and moral security. I think that's the best way I can describe it at the moment. And before we begin, though, you may have noticed that my Halo collection has, gotten pretty big. It works the same way with videos that you upload. You basically turn, like, whether you want them to be monetized or not. You go into the settings or something like that. Yeah, that's the thing, Zam Kirby. You would think so, but And yeah, I'm not showing like any of the pages. I'm just, reading it out loud. And that's kind of why, I decided to approach it from keep doing it until something goes wrong kind of approach. Now, that may sound a little risky, but if it's just like a strike, then I'll get the signal that I'll immediately stop. And I feel like as long as I have that little blurb that you saw at the beginning of the stream about, who the property belongs to, I think it's important to bring that up. Because again, it's a bit of security. I mean, there are these things called Star Wars audio comics, and basically they take the Marvel Star Wars comics and keep it's a fan-based production. All the editing, all the voice actors, all the sound effects, music. Well, some of the music might actually belong to the original Star Wars soundtrack. But my point is, for those kinds of videos, they put a little warning similar to the one I made about how Star Wars is a property of Lucasfilm, Disney, and Marvel. Uh, I mean, Star Wars comics are a property of Lucasfilm, Disney, and Marvel. So, and they make money off of it. They get like ads in the middle of their videos, and I'm not really sure how that works exactly. If they're allowed to do it that way. And yes, they show the images in the book. Like they show scanned images and they add voices and sound effects and music and everything. Oh, how old am I? I am 30. I turned 30 last year, 2020. Ah, man, that was a rough year for everybody. I'm really hoping that 2021 is going to turn out better. I mean, given what happened, earlier this year, we're not exactly off to a great start, but I feel like it's important to, at least be cautiously optimistic. But, realize that, things are gonna maybe get worse before they get better. Married or have kids? No, I am neither married nor do I have kids. I'm as single as a dollar bill, as far as I know. Online dating is a very weird thing. I mean, especially with the pandemic and all that. But this isn't about my love life at the moment. This stream is about this. Hey, hang on, I should probably arrange my OBS. Okay, there we go. It's about this. The Bionicle Chronicles. There are 4 volumes inside. What's my job other than YouTube? I'm a background actor for This Is Us. Extras, the people that you see in the background in movies and TV shows. Except for me, it's This Is Us. Yeah, and I meet a lot of great people. Oh, shoot. I met a lot of great people, and I've networked with a lot of others. Like even if we may not see each other again, it's still a great experience to meet people. Could you imagine if someone over at Lego was like watching this is like, okay, he's gonna read any second. Can't wait to give him the strike. Something like that. Like this guy's just boring us with his love life and stuff about 2021. Uh, uh, what does sunburst mean? I mean, I'm familiar with the candy, but what does that mean? Do they still make Sunburst? I thought they did. Hmm. Oh, that's right. Let me guess, you went on IMDb, didn't you? Yes, as Giles. Yeah, a friend of mine invited me to do that. But anyway, like I said, this isn't about me. This is about this. This is the Bionicle Chronicles, #1, Tale of the Toa, by C.A. Hapka. Oh, yeah, I did a test live stream earlier to make sure that I'd rather watch a biography stream. Maybe some other time, like maybe when the date is especially special. But we'll see. I'm glad you think I'm an interesting person. But anyway, the legend of Motunui. In the time before time, the Great Spirit descended from the heavens, carrying we, the ones called the Matoran, to this island paradise. We were separate and without purpose, so the Great Spirit blessed us with 3 virtues: unity, duty, and destiny. We embraced these gifts, and in gratitude, we named our island home Motunui, after the Great Spirit himself. But our happiness was not to last. Motunui's brother, Makuta, was jealous of these honors and betrayed him. Makuta cast a spell over Motunui, who fell into a deep slumber. Makuta's power dominated the land. As fields withered away, sunlight grew cold, and ancient values were forgotten. Still, all hope was not lost. Legends told of 6 mighty heroes, the Toa, who had arrived to save Motunui. Time would reveal that these were not simply myths. For the Toa did appear on the shores of the island. They arrived with no memory, no knowledge of one another, but they pledged to defend Motunui and its people against the darkness. Tahu, Toa of fire; Anua, Toa of earth; Gali, Toa of water; Liwa, Toa of air; Pohatu, Toa of stone; and Kopaka, Toa of ice. Great warriors with great power, drawn from the very elements themselves. Together, they were the 6 heroes with one destiny: to defeat Makuta and save Motunui. This is their story. This is a Lego toy. Thank you, DJ. Chapter 1. Tahu, Toa of Fire. A beach. He was standing on a sweeping expanse of sand, sloping gently down to the sea. As he gazed out at the ocean, he saw waves breaking over a coral reef. Beyond that, there was nothing but water, stretching to an unbroken horizon. Who am I? He thought, his mind a haze of memories and dreams. Who am I? Tahu. The word, a name, floated through his mind. It seemed to fit, to make sense somehow, but little else did. Tahu shook his head in frustration. Why couldn't he remember more? How had he come to this place? And why? He glanced toward the polished canister that had brought him here. Near it, he saw several red components lying on the sand. Two turned out to be blades, shaped into the form of leaping red flames. They fitted together into a sword, the handle sitting comfortably in his clawed hand. But when he swung the sword, it felt heavy and awkward. He scowled. "Useless hunk of metal," he muttered, jabbing the blade into the sand. Then he noticed the mask. It stared up at him with gaping eye holes, its surface catching the sunlight so that it appeared to come alive in his hands. Taking a deep breath, Tahu lifted the mask to his face. A surge of power coursed through him. Yes, this was more like it. Tahu grabbed the flame sword and lifted it. This time, to his surprise, the blade was glowing with crimson fire. When he swung the sword, it sizzled through the air, trailing sparks in its wake. "Yes," Tahu said with grim satisfaction. "Now we're getting somewhere." But was he? He let the sword fall to his side, overwhelmed by despair. Why was he here? What was he supposed to do now? "Why can't I remember?" he howled, swinging his sword over his head. A bolt of fiery energy shot forth, erupting into the sky like a volcano. Sparks showered down onto the beach, but Tahu didn't feel their heat. "Power. I have such power," he thought with wonder. "The power of fire, of heat and flame. But where does it come from? What is it for?" More questions. And still, he had no answers. Not knowing made him shake with frustration and rage. It made him want to turn his sword against the earth, the sky, the beach, the very world itself. It was tempting, so tempting, to lose himself in chaos, to strike out with no thought for past, future, or anything else. Tahu took a deep breath. No, he couldn't allow himself to give in. Somehow he knew that, just as he'd known his name. Okay, he told himself. The knowing will come. At least, I hope it will. Chapter 2. Liwa, Toa of Air. "This sturdy cling twiner will do, I expect," the bright green figure murmured to himself, stretching to grab a thick vine that was hanging down in front of him. He glanced into the canyon below, then shook his head and grinned. "No second thought, just go!" C.A. Hapka. There. With that, he leaped off the tree branch, overhanging the canyon. He swung himself halfway across, then let go. Momentum carried him in a graceful arc over and past the gorge. He laughed with delight as he landed cleanly on a nearby tree. "Now that was fun!" he exclaimed. He hadn't been sure that he could make such a leap, but now he knew at least one thing. The air was his friend. He didn't know much else. He knew his name was Liwa. At least he thought so. He liked the name. It sounded strong and mysterious. "Liwa, Mystery King of Know-Nothingness," he thought with a smile. "That's me." He glanced down at himself, at his strong limbs the color of the jungle leaves. In one hand, he carried an axe-like blade, perfect for slicing through thick underbrush or twining foliage. Though he couldn't see it, he knew that his bright green mask swept back in a streamlined shape, perfect for cutting through the air. His smile faded as his mind flashed back to the dreams. Was that all they were? Dreams? He hoped so, for they had been dark and chaotic, and filled him with fear. "Never mind," he muttered. "Time enough for dark thought later. It's time for some answer finding." Liwa had immediately found himself drawn to the lush, dripping jungle. Now that he was here, he felt at home. I'm not sure if I can do that, DJ. Anyway. As he reached the edge of a large stand of volo trees, Liwa jumped onto a slender branch. The motion flung something out of a nest of feathers and twigs farther along the branch. He carried out in dismay, realizing that he had just ejected a baby taku out of its nest. Without thought, he flung one arm upward through the air in the direction of the falling chick. "Up you go!" he cried. For a moment, he thought that the baby bird was flying away. Then he realized the truth. No, not the flying. The wind had caught it and carried it aloft. Leaping across to a closer branch, Liwa raised up and caught the chick gently in one hand. He placed it carefully back in its nest. "Now, what kind of happy luck was that?" he murmured. Or was it? Struck with a sudden impulse, he flung up his arm. Once again, a quick gust swooped up from below in a swirl of leaves. "It was me!" Liwa breathed in amazement. "I did it! The wind answers to me!" Oh, hello, Danimations. Yep, I just read the first 2 chapters of this book. We were just introduced to Toa Tahu and Toa Liwa. Toa Tahu has the power of fire. He has some anger issues, it looks like. And Liwa is like carefree and super happy. And always out for learning more. Again, this is a Lego toy that we're talking about. I don't know if I have 4,000 watch hours. No, I'm serious. This is a Lego toy with all this deep, complex lore and whatever. I don't know how many watch hours I deserve. Okay, I'll check that out later, DJ. And right now, as Liwa would probably say, it's time for book reading. Chapter 3. Onua, Toa of Earth. Dig, pull, scrape, push. Dig, pull, scrape, push. Onua fell into comfortable rhythm as he scooped out a new tunnel. He was happy to be underground, but he still felt uneasy. Aside from his name, he didn't know anything about who or where he was, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he was somehow missing something, missing a piece of himself. Thanks, DJ. But he pushed that worry aside. There was no sense in wasting energy fretting over what he couldn't control. All he could do was control what he could, like the digging. Onua powered his huge hand forward through a rocky section of the tunnel wall. It met empty air instead of earth and rock. Interesting. Pushing through with a shower of stones and clay, Onua found himself in a large cavern. In the center, a tower of rock ended in a flat stone platform. Atop it, a light stone glowed. So there are others underground, Onua thought. Perhaps they will have some answers for me. He spotted a tunnel in the far wall of the cavern and followed it. Turning a corner, he was startled to see a familiar-looking figure at the center of a large mural. Is that Me? He whispered, reaching out to touch the image. It portrayed a powerful-looking figure with a wedge-shaped mask and large clawed hands. The figure was standing among five other similar figures. As Anua touched the lines of the carving, he felt a strange vibration in the wall. Stepping forward, he put his head to it, listening intently. Thunk-a, 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 thunk-a. It was a steady rhythm. Anua had no idea what it meant, but he planned to find out. With one last glance at the picture of himself, he turned and continued down the tunnel, keeping one hand on the wall to follow the vibrations. The pulsing grew stronger and stronger, and with the next twist of the tunnel, Anua found what he was looking for. Another enormous cavern lay before him, lit by more light stone platforms. Dozens of stone columns stretched up to the high ceiling. Between these columns were paths made of cobblestones set into the earthen floor. Stone benches stood beside the paths, and a small, clear stream trickled through the cavern. It must be a park of some sort, Anua realized. But down here, why and how? Stepping forward, he saw that the little stream emptied into a still, round pool lined with pebbles. In the center, reddish-brown gemstones spelled out a word. Onu Koro. Onu Koro? What did that mean? What kind of connection did it have with his name? Before he had time to ponder this, Anua saw a small figure hurrying across the park. Anua leaped forward. You there, he said. Hey, hello! The figure glanced over his shoulder, then stopped short. Oh, he exclaimed. Oh! Anua frowned. Perhaps this being didn't speak the same language as he did. He cleared his throat. Hello, he said, as slowly and clearly as he could. Me, Anua. He put a hand to his chest, then pointed onward. He pointed toward the other. Who you? Do you understand me? Oh, yes, the small figure cried, bending into a sort of hurried bow. Oh, Toa Anua, we've been waiting for you for such a long time. Please, come, please. Turaga Winua will want to see you right away. Confused, Onua followed him. You know my name, he said, but I don't know yours. Oh, forgive me. Forgive my rudeness, Toa. My name is Onepu. I am a Matoran of this village of Onukoro. Onepu led the way through a series of tunnels and caverns. Soon they reached another large cavern. On each wall, a series of carved-out dwellings climbed nearly to the ceiling. Wait here, please, Toa, Onepu said, gesturing toward a large stone bench near the fountain. I will fetch the Turaga. Anua nodded, and the Matoran rushed off. Anua took the opportunity to look around. At the center of the cavern was a fountain filled with crystal-clear water. The sculpture arose from the pool, spouting water out of several spots. Anua blinked. Was he going crazy, or did that sculpture look an awful lot like him? He was still staring at the fountain when he heard someone behind him. Turning, he saw a figure much like Onepu, but a bit taller with a different mask. The eyes behind that mask held patience, caution, and great wisdom. I am Wanua, Turaga of this village, the stranger said, bowing. Welcome, Toa Anua. We have been waiting for you. Thank you, DJ. Yes, so I've heard, Anua replied, and I've been awaiting some clue about who I am and what I'm doing here. The legends said that would be the case, Wanua said. It was said that the Toa, when they arrived, would remember very little. You said when they arrived, Anua said. Are there Are there others like me? Winua nodded. There are 5 others, he said. Each of you draws his power from a different element. Yours is the earth itself. Your purpose is to use that power to face and fight a mighty evil, Makuta. Though Anua wasn't sure why, the name sent a chill through him. An image floated into his mind. Dark, empty eyes and an even darker face, shrouded with gray smoke. Makuta, Anua repeated as the image floated away. Who or what is this, Makuta? He is the darkness, the essence of chaos, and emptiness and fear. The spirit of destruction, Winua replied in a trembling voice. It is said that only the Toa have the power to stand against him. It is said? Winua asked. You don't sound too certain about our success. Winua shook his head sadly. It serves no purpose to be false, for the earth cannot be deceived, he said. Nothing about your quest is certain, except that it is your duty to try. That is all that any of us can do in this life. I will do what I can, he promised solemnly. But first, you must tell me all you know of these powers you say I have. Of course, Toa, Winua said. For that is my duty. First, you should know that the power itself comes from within you, but it is focused through your mask, the Pakari, the great mask of strength. My mask? Anua touched his hand to his face, remembering the surge of strength and power when he'd first put it on. Winua nodded somberly. The Pakari gives you power, great power, he said, but one mask will not be enough. I don't know about you guys, but this is actually insanely interesting. Here, I should probably drink some water. I mean, energy drinks are one thing, but it's another thing to like keep your voice lubricated with the proper kind of liquid. It's a kid's toy, remember? Anyway. Chapter 4. Gali, Toa of Water. The waters lifted her, carrying her along in a soft current of warmth. She didn't know who or where she was, but she knew she belonged here, in the calm, cool blue of the sea. That was perhaps the only thing she knew for sure. That and her name. Gali. But I can't just float here forever, she reminded herself. I have things to do. If only I knew what they were. She had no certain memories, but many uncertain ones, fragments of thoughts and images. There was urgency in those fragments, though some of them hinted at peace as well, especially one, an endless sea of calm waters surrounding an island, embracing it, and soothing its ills. Gali kicked swiftly forward with her flipper-like feet. Her hooked arms cut through the water, and the ridged edges on her blue mask sent bubbly ripples out to the sides as she swam. The sea was full of life, but Gali felt strangely alone. As she swam, she felt a shivering tremor radiate through the water. A brightly colored eel raced past her. Several schools of fish followed. Gali paused and stared in the direction the creatures had come. What frightened them? More fish rushed past her in a panic, along with several crabs and snails, and even a small shark. Golly pushed forward, swimming against the tide of fleeing sea creatures. A large coral reef blocked her view of whatever lay beyond. As she swam around it, Golly saw a gigantic creature barreling toward her. The water churned around its vicious-looking snout with its long, powerful arms. As its long, powerful arms pulled it forward toward Golly, faster and faster. Golly gasped. She had no idea what the monster might be, but she could see why the other creatures had fled. The predator wore a dingy-looking, ugly mask over its triangular face, and its gleaming red eyes were ruthless and savage. There was no time to outswim the huge creature. It was already too close. For a fraction of a second, Golly thought of using the coral reef for protection, but she couldn't stand to imagine the creature crashing through the delicate structures, destroying the living coral. Golly let her instincts take over. Pushing off of the coral, she bulleted through the water off to one side. Then she shot through the surface. She broke the surface and extended her arms, not sure why she was doing so. She felt the waters gather and respond to her call. As the giant sea creature burst to the surface a short distance away, an enormous wave formed around her. Her vicious pursuer leaped forward, but the tidal wave rocketed Golly away toward the shore, faster than any creature could swim. Golly smiled as the water carried her to safety. "So this is what I am meant to do," she thought. "I am here to command the seas, but for what purpose?" A few minutes later, Golly shook herself dry as she stepped out of the surf and onto the beach. She stood there for a moment, looking around, strangely reluctant to leave the water. She glanced across the beach. A thick, dripping jungle began where the sands left off. The humidity of the place reached out, beckoning to her, and she could not resist its call. Yeah, I am actually enjoying the read. A lot of old memories are coming back to me. I think the real question here is, are you guys enjoying the read? You want engagement, DJ? Now's the time. I think I'm already taking my chances with these Bionicle comics at the moment. I'm not sure if Rick and Morty is arguably a lot more popular. It absolutely is a lot more popular than Bionicle at the moment. Bionicle came out at a time when social media wasn't really a thing. Our only source of finding everything we could about Bionicle safe chat? I don't really know how to do that. Or wait, maybe this edit thing. Hold on. Enable. Well, I have a thing. Well, I just checked a thing that said enable live chat. I thought it was already live. Let's see, live direct, redirect viewers, monetization. I'm not seeing anything about safe stuff. Here, I'm just gonna do this. Turn on safe chat. Or a donation link. I meant super chat. I'll refresh. What? Five concurrent viewers. That's not super chat button. Custom emojis. I don't. I mean, right now I'm just using the built-in YouTube thing. I'm not using like Streamlabs or whatever. I mean, I'm looking at some icons that say create highlight video, add stream marker, share. There's a pop. What's this? Toggle timestamps, participants, pop-out chat. Clueless, you see. Oh yeah, I'm definitely clueless. That's why I'm starting new. I'm sure I'll get the hang of it once I actually start my other YouTube channel, which is going really well, by the way. As you can see, like I said before, I've added quite the collection to my Halo novels. No. I'm not really in it for... I mean, it'd be cool to make money, but right now I'm just here for the entertainment. I'm doing this for fun. I'm not expecting any... I mean, like I said, I have monetization for this thing off. I mean, I suppose it wouldn't hurt to make a thing like that. I mean, I've been kind of going back and forth between, you know, making a Patreon or not. So wait, you're saying you would actually donate? Oh, thank you. I mean, I appreciate if you could donate, but I feel like I've been taking too much of a break from the story, so I think we should read more. Because, you know, I want to meet the other Toa in the story. Well, then I'll make it happen one day, DJ. I'll make it happen one day. How about we do the chats whenever I finish a chapter? You know, like a post-chapter discussion, if you will. I mean, that's how I've normally done it in the past. So let's move on to chapter 5. Chapter 5. Pohatu, Toa of Stone. Pohatu glanced over his shoulder. On the wall that surrounded the village of Pokoro, dozens of Matoran were gathered, watching him go. Grinning, Pohatu shaded his eyes with one hand and gave them a quick wave with the other. The villagers waved back and cheered. That was an interesting visit, Pohatu said aloud to himself as he turned away again. It's not every day you find out you're the Toa of Stone. He almost tripped on a protruding stone in the path. Glancing down, he saw 3 words spelled out in cobblestones beneath his feet. Unity, duty, destiny. Now where have I heard those words before? Pohatu murmured with a chuckle. The Turaga of Po-Koro had told him of many things. The strange dark history of this island of Motunui, the mysterious masks that were hidden throughout the island, and best of all, that there were 5 other Toa with powers as strong as his own. As the village elder spoke, 3 words had come up again and again. Unity, duty, destiny. These 3 concepts had given the Matoran a purpose, something to strive for always. Now it was time to see the rest of this island. Turaga Onua said... Turaga... man, I'm not sure how to pronounce this name because it's kind of... You'd think it would be a little similar to Onua's name. You see, Onua is spelt... Okay, so Onua is spelt this way. And this other character's name is spelt this way. Turaga Aniwa. Let's call him Aniwa. I like that. Turaga Aniwa said this mask I wear is the Kanohi Kakama, the great mask of speed. Pohatu thought, maybe it's time to put it to the test. He hesitated, wondering if it was wise to experiment with his powers. When he still knew so little about how they worked. But what was the worst that could happen? Gathering his energy, Pohatu directed his gaze toward the top of Mount Ihu and ran. The desert landscape passed a yellowish blur, all details obscured by the Toa's immense speed. For a moment, the yellowish blur shifted into a brown one, punctuated by flashes of green, and then quickly grew paler again until all Pohatu could see around him was white. He slowed to a stop. He was standing in a snowdrift overlooking a frozen lake. The steep icy slopes of Mount Ihu rose above him. Outrageous, he said breathlessly, a smile spreading behind his mask. Now that's what I call speed. Leaving the frozen lake behind, he started up the mountainside. The Turaga had told him the main temple, the Kini Nui, was in the exact center of the island, on the far side of Mount Ihu. It seemed as likely a place as any to look for the other Toa. As he turned around to check his progress, he caught a glimpse of movement somewhere farther up the slopes. A bird? Not unless this island grows its birds awfully big, he muttered, staring at the silver and white figure gliding gracefully down a high mountain slope, powdery snow flying up in an arc behind his feet. No, there was only one thing it could be. Another Toa. His heart pounding, Pohatu leaped up to the slopes, gathering speed, careful not to get too fast. He didn't want to overshoot his target. He lost sight of his quarry for a few minutes as he tromped through a narrow valley, grumbling at the snowdrifts which came up to his waist in some spots. He glanced upward. At the top of the valley, a rocky bluff hid the higher slopes from his view. He clambered up toward it, finally leaving the deeper snowdrifts behind. Brushing the snow from his body, Pohatu gazed at the precipice standing in his way. If he had judged the distance right, the other Toa should be on the snowy slope just on the other side. Time for a shortcut, Pohatu murmured. I don't want him to start skiing down that hill and get away from me. Besides, I might as well start getting used to this power of mine. Taking a deep breath, he hunched his shoulders and raced straight at the solid stone. Onewa? Onewa. Onewa? Onewa. Onewa. Thank you, DJ. So that was chapter 5. So that was chapter 5. We also got another character who likes to use his powers. And yeah, these guys are kind of like Power Ranger Lego figures, if you will. Okay, so let's check out chapter 6. Chapter 6. Kopaka, Toa of Ice. 1. Rumble, rumble, crash! Kopaka's ice blade was up and ready as the rocky bluff exploded, but there was no time to dodge as enormous boulders rained down around him. Watch out! A voice cried from somewhere in the storm of stone. Kopaka lifted his shield, protecting himself as best he could. When the eruption of stone stopped, he found himself trapped between several huge boulders. Glancing up, he saw a figure about his own size gazing down at him, resting his weight on one of the large stones. The stranger wore a bronze-colored mask, and the eyes behind it were concerned and a bit sheepish. Sorry about that, the stranger said. I was practicing. Are you all right? I would be, Kopaka returned icily, if you weren't standing on me. The stranger jumped back a few steps, then stretched out his arm. Let me help you out. Kopaka was already pointing his blade at the nearest rock. He was annoyed that the stranger's sudden appearance had taken him by surprise, caught him with his defenses down. He would not make that mistake again. Thank you. I don't need help, he said. Focusing his energy, he channeled it through the blade. A thrill ran through him as the rock around him froze solid, becoming brittle and glassy. The other figure was still watching him anxiously. Let me do it, he urged, as Kopaka lifted his blade again. Or wait, hold on. It'll be faster. Kopaka frowned, already tired of the stranger's pushy clatter. I said I can do it myself. Bringing the blade down, he smashed the icy boulder into smithereens, freeing himself. The stranger looked impressed for a moment. Then he shrugged. Yeah, well, you missed one, he said, kicking at one remaining boulder. Kopaka blinked as the huge stone went sailing off toward the horizon. Whoever this stranger was, he was strong, incredibly strong. Kopaka supposed that meant he had to be one of the other Toa that Turaga Nuju had mentioned. But Kopaka had no interest in meeting other Toa. Turning away from the stranger, he continued on his way. The Matoran had told him there was a mask at the top of this mountain. The place of far seeing, they had called it. He meant to find that mask as soon as possible. But the stranger didn't get the message. That's very sweet of you. In this series, it's 4. Sorry, I keep interrupting myself. Sorry. Where was I? But the stranger didn't get the message. Hey, he called. Wait, are you a Toa? I've been looking for you. I am Pohatu, Toa of Stone. Kopaka considered not answering. Maybe if he ignored this annoying Pohatu, he would go away. But it seemed unlikely. Kopaka, he said brusquely. Ice, and if you don't mind, I'm in the middle of something. See you later. He bent, and effortlessly rode a slight dip in the ground, his feet sliding smoothly over the ice. He soon left Pohatu behind. But it turned out that the newcomer was not to be abandoned so easily. "Wait!" he called again, scrabbling up the hill. "Listen, I have a feeling we're both here for the same reason. Why not team up? It might make things easier." "I work alone." "By choice?" Pohatu returned quickly. "Or because no one can stand you?" Kopaka almost smiled at that. Almost. This other Toa was irritating and far too chatty, but he also seemed to be quick-witted. And he was certainly strong. Perhaps he could come in handy after all, especially if they come across another of those huge, vicious monsters that the Matoran called Rahi. "All right," Kopaka said after a long moment. "Come along. After all, I might need a mountain moved, or the island lifted." Pohatu chuckled. "Okay," he said. "So, where are we going anyway? Should we start looking for masks or seek the other Toa first?" Kopaka pointed toward the peak rising just above them. Then he climbed on, not bothering to check whether Pohatu was following. A few minutes later, the two of them were standing at the peak of the mountain. Kopaka immediately spotted a mask lying in the ground. Pohatu saw it too. "Good work, brother," he said. "Go ahead, claim your prize." Kopaka nodded. The new Kanolhi looked gray and lifeless lying in the snow. Though it was the same size as his own mask, its shape was different, a helmet-like form with angled eyes and 3 slashes in each cheek. The Kanohi how, Kopaka thought, remembering what the Turaga had told him. The great mask of shielding. Kopaka bent to pick up the mask. He stared at it for a moment, then carefully placed it over his own mask. Immediately, a strange feeling overwhelmed him, as if a cushion of strength had settled around him, protecting him from all harm. But what of his other powers? Did this new mask affect them? Kopaka called forth the power of his original mask, which gave him the ability to see through stone and snow to what lay beneath. Glancing down to the ground, he saw the icy snow, and then the raw, cold dirt underneath, and beyond that, a layer of rock cross-cut with veins of minerals. The powers of the Mask of Vision are still mine to use. He was pleased. As he turned his gaze toward the south, his X-ray vision cut straight through the craggy bluffs to several bright spots of color far below the foothills. Then he sighed. For a moment he was tempted to turn away, to ignore what he'd seen, but he realized he might as well face up to the inevitable. "We have to go," he told Pohatu abruptly, hating the thought of what was to come, but knowing there was no avoiding it. "Now." "Why?" "No questions." Kopaka was tired of all the conversation. "Just follow me." The two of them headed down the mountain, Pohatu skidding and slipping on the icy slopes. Kopaka forced himself to move slowly so the other Toa can keep up. They were about halfway down when there was an earth-shattering roar from somewhere just ahead of them. "Uh-oh," Pohatu said. "I don't like the sound of that." Before Kopaka could respond, a massive creature burst through a snowbank a short distance below where the Toa were standing, sending a shower of snow and ice shards out on all sides. Kopaka shielded his eyes, squinting at the enormous, snorting, puffing beast as it skidded to a stop just a few lengths away. "Is this what you were leading us toward?" Pohatu shouted, sounding dismayed. "No," Kopaka said grimly. The creature was like something out of a nightmare. Its red eyes gleamed with hate, and it pawed at the snowy ground with hoof-like feet, puffs of steam blowing from its nostrils, twin horns twisted out of the sides of its enormous head. Pohatu said. Do you think this big fellow is an ally or enemy? Then realized the other Toa was kidding. He rolled his eyes, not amused. Come on, he said. I think we'd better. Is my stream doing okay? I could have sworn it just freaked out for a second. Yeah, I just saw it out of the corner of my eye. Like, I saw the little circle spinning. Sorry to interrupt myself, but I just couldn't help it. Like, I figured it wouldn't make much sense if I, kept reading if my stream were acting a little funky. The first time I ever watched a stream, I made your day. I hope that happens again one day. The likes are my alts and friends. What's an alt? Oh. Oh. DJ, you didn't have to do that. You're too kind, dude. I'm very flattered. I just, yeah, that's really kind of you. But, anyway, where was I? Let's see. Oh. Come on, he said. I think we better. Oh, wait. Oh, wait, wrong character. Come on, he said. I think we'd better. At that moment, the hideous creature let out another thunderous bellow, and then charged straight at them. Run! Pohatu finished for him. The two Toa turned and sprinted back up the slope. At least Kopaka sprinted. Pohatu tried to run, but lost his footing on the ice and went down, struggling to keep himself from sliding right back under the beast's charging hooves. Kopaka skidded to a stop, realizing the other Toa was in trouble. Big, charging, snorting trouble. Letting out a sigh, he skied back down the hill. No, Kopaka, don't! It's too dangerous! Don't be ridiculous! Kopaka waved his arms and shouted, trying to distract the enemy. The creature slowed, glancing from one Toa to the other, confused. Then it snorted and bellowed, and returned its full attention to the fallen Pohatu, who was just now climbing unsteadily to his feet. Time for plan B, Kopaka thought, looking around for new ideas. They were standing on an open field that offered little in the way of hiding places. To one side, the ground dropped away sharply into a deep, icy ravine. Kopaka paused, his mind clicking into gear. If only he could get the beast to change directions. There was just one problem. The creature was almost on top of Pohatu. 2 more leaps and its horns would be buried in the other Toa's chest. There would be no time to explain. He'll just have to go with it, Kopaka told himself grimly, already pushing off smoothly and gathering speed as he skied down toward the fallen Toa. If he doesn't, well, there's no sense in worrying. Here goes nothing. Snort! The beast made another leap forward. It lowered its head, aiming its horns directly at Pohatu. Pohatu took a step backward, almost falling again as his foot hit an icy patch. Meanwhile, Kopaka skied toward him, gathering speed. He would be close. Heads up! He shouted, and arms out! Pohatu looked startled, but flung his arms out to his sides. Just as the creature lunged forward, snorting eagerly, Kopaka whizzed past and grabbed Pohatu around the chest. Oof! Pohatu grunted as Kopaka yanked him out of the beast's path just as it lunged forward and buried its horns in the snow. Kopaka wobbled, nearly losing his balance. I have to straighten out, he thought. Otherwise we'll never make it. Behind him, he could already hear the beast roaring with anger and charging after them. Where are we going? Pohatu panted. To Kopaka's relief, the stone toa was hanging loosely in his arms, not struggling against his grip or trying to free himself. Kopaka couldn't have replied even if he'd wanted to. He was too busy willing his feet to obey him, in a desperate attempt to control the angle of their speedy downhill slide. It worked, just 3 or 4 lengths from the ravine now. His feet finally settled smoothly into an upright position on the icy snow. He bent as low as he could without dragging Pohatu's legs in the snow. Now there was no turning back. Hey! Pohatu cried, suddenly looking forward and seeing the chasm directly in front of them. What are you? Ah! Kopaka held his breath as he felt his feet leave the cold, solid surface of the ice. He held on tightly to Pohatu as they flew up, and over the canyon. Pohatu was still screaming, but Kopaka didn't let out his breath until he felt his feet slam down again on the far side of the gorge. He teetered and threw himself to the side, allowing himself and Pohatu to pitch face first into the snow. What the? Why did you do that? Pohatu cried, spitting out a mouthful of snow. You could have gotten us killed. That's why. Kopaka had already turned to stare back at the ravine. He pointed, and Pohatu turned to look just in time to see the snorting, squealing creature skid down the ice and tumble head over hooves into the depths of the fissure. A furious bellow drifted up toward them. Oh. Pohatu was silent for a moment. Then he grinned weakly. Thanks. I guess I owe you one, brother. Kopaka nodded. Then he crawled forward to the edge of the ravine, glancing down. The beast was still bellowing and struggling at the bottom, digging its hooves into the ice as it started to climb. It will be able to climb out of there soon enough, Kopaka observed, watching as the beast leaped up to an icy ledge. Not if I have anything to say about it, Pohatu replied. He climbed to his feet and strode toward the rocky cliff nearby. You might want to step aside. He called over his shoulder as he began climbing hand over hand up at the sheer rock face. Kopaka moved a little further down the slope, seeing an eye on the edge of the gulch. The beast could come charging out of there at any moment. Yee-haw! Pohatu cried, drawing his foot back, and then kicking at a huge chunk of the rock face. The solid stone cracked instantly, and an enormous boulder flew forward toward the fissure, disappearing over its edge. Pohatu moved onto another section of the bluff. Once again, he aimed a mighty kick, sending a chunk of stone across the snowy ground and straight into the gorge. Kopaka watched with grudging admiration as Pohatu repeated the movements again and again. Okay, this is too slow, Pohatu exclaimed. Let's try something else. What was he up to now? Kopaka had no idea. A second later, Pohatu brought both fists down on the rock, and the cliff exploded into 1,000 shards of stone. Remembering his first meeting with Pohatu, Kopaka covered his head with his shield. A few pebbles bounced off of it, but the bulk of the explosion of stone showered down into the ravine with a deafening roar. Whoa! Pohatu shouted gleefully after the noise had subsided. That was so cool! I mean, I was pretty sure it would work, but still. While he waited for the other Toa to rejoin him, Kopaka stepped forward and peered again over the edge of the chasm. The creature was was buried up to its horns in the rocky mess that now nearly filled I can't talk today. That now filled nearly half of the deep canyon. Hearing Pohatu hurrying up beside him, Kobaka turned. "Nice work," he said. "It will be able to escape, but not for a long while." Pohatu glanced once more at the huge beast trapped below them. "That was close, though. What is that thing, anyway?" "Rahi," Kopaka told him, already turning to lead the way down the snowy slope. "That's what the Turaga said they're called. There are many species, all shapes and sizes. They're not very friendly." "No kidding." Both Toa were silent for a few minutes as they climbed and skidded down the mountain, each buried in his own thoughts. Finally, Pohatu spoke again. "So, what did you see up there, anyway?" he asked. "From the peak, I mean." This time, Kopaka decided to answer. "Strangers," he replied. "Beings of great power." They came to the top of a steep hill, standing in an open area below. 4 bright spots stood out against the drab background of stone and dirt. 4 figures, one a bright burning red, another blue as the sea, a third black as starless midnight, and the final one the same bright green as the leaves on the trees. Kopaka stared down at them. The other Toa. It had to be them. "But are they allies?" he murmured. "Or enemies?" Oh, well, that was an action-filled chapter. I think we got more of a sense of Pohatu's personality. He wants to make friends with everybody. And Kopaka is just the kind of guy who doesn't want to be bothered. He strikes me as the Shadow of the group. You know, Shadow from Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, kind of ice cold. That's why I made him sound a bit tough like this. Thanks, I'm liking it too. Where are we now? No freaking way. We're almost halfway done. Oh, wait, hold on. No, go back. Go back. Okay, so let's do the next chapter. This is getting interesting now. Oh, see you later, DJ. See you later. Thanks for attending. I hope you enjoy the rest of this book when you get the chance. The Meeting. No, wait. Chapter 7. The Meeting. Golly was the first to notice the 2 newcomers. Brothers, she said quietly. Look. One of the newcomers wore a bronze mask. He leapt easily down to land among them. Mind if we join the party? Tahu stepped forward. I'm Tahu, Toa of Fire. Who are you? The bronze stranger seemed unintimidated by Tahu's fiery glare. I'm Pohatu, he said, Toa of Stone. My talkative friend there is the ice Toa, Kopaka. He gestured to the silver and white figure standing silently behind him. The second newcomer stepped forward, Kopaka. Gali looked him up and down, feeling a chill ripple down through the air as he came closer. This one has many layers, she thought uncertainly. He is cold, but I sense his frosty exterior may hide a blazing fire deep within. At that moment, Kopaka turned his icy gaze upon her, catching her stare. He said nothing, but Gali quickly turned away. More introductions were made, and soon they were trading stories of how and where they each had awakened. As the others chatted, Kopaka said little. He was thinking about the future, what else lay in store for them here. and what the mysterious Makuta, the evil one his villagers had spoken of. He glanced at the red one, Tahu, who was blustering on about his journey to find his village, Ta Koro, at the top of a volcano. This fire toa is full of hot air, Kopaka thought. Will he be prepared for the heart? Will he be prepared for the heat of battle, or will he burn it? Okay. Will he be prepared for the heat of battle, or will he burn out quickly? Then there was Onua, the Toa of Earth. He spoke less than the others while listening to all that was said. Did the subdued exterior hide a busy mind or an empty one? Just then, Liwa, the Toa of Air, punctuated a comment he'd made by backflipping onto a nearby boulder and doing a handstand. So much energy, Kopaka thought, but it blows out of him uncontrolled, in all directions like the wind. Not exactly someone I'd want to trust my life to in a tough spot. Hearing Pahatu's cheerful laugh, Kopaka turned to gaze at him. The Toa of Stone had surprised him in their battle against the horned Rahi. He had fought bravely. He had also been willing to entrust his life to Kopaka in that wild ski jump over the ravine. I don't know if I could have done the same, Kopaka admitted to himself. Then he shook his head. But why should he trust someone he doesn't know? It turned out well in that case, but he was foolish to be so ready to turn his life over to a stranger. I would not make that same mistake. Finally, Kopaka turned his gaze toward Gali. Now this one he couldn't read. The way he had caught her looking at him a few moments ago, it was as if she could see into his mind, his heart, just the way he could see through the earth and stone with his mask of vision. But that was impossible, wasn't it? Gali spoke, interrupting Kopaka's thoughts. Well, brothers, she said, turning her gaze to take in all of them, I suppose that's enough talk of the past. We should start discussing what comes next, yes? For despite all the interesting elemental powers we may have, I expect that our best weapon is our minds. Kopaka almost smiled. At last, someone was talking sense. You're right, Gali, Tahu said. We need to find these masks we seek, as quickly as possible. The Turaga of my village told me they will give us great powers. I know my own mask gives me the powers of protection or shielding. That's right, Pohatu interrupted. Brother Kopaka has found a mask of shielding too. Tahu frowned. Yes, he said shortly, sounding irritated. Well, there are 5 more masks out there for each of us. Once again, Kopaku held back a smile. Obviously, Tahu was annoyed that someone else had beaten him to the first mask. Onua looked thoughtful. According to my Turaga, the masks are hidden all over the island, and Makuta has set his Rahi creatures to guard them. So our quest won't be easy. Fine. Tahu sounded impatient. Anyway, the important thing is to find them, fast. We'll split into smaller groups. Gali and Liwa, you can search the jungle and beaches together. Onua and Kopaka can check the caves of Onuwahi. And Pohatu, you can come with... Hold on a second, Brother Tahu. No, hold on a quick second, Brother Tahu, Liwa interrupted. If speed is what we're after, why bother with the pair making? Why not each of us journey search on our own? Onua shrugged. Our fiery brother has a good plan, he said calmly. Working in pairs makes sense. It strikes a balance between speed and caution. Gali was shaking her head. Brothers, we have been brought together for a reason. I think we ought to stick together, at least until we know exactly what we're up against. Pohatu nodded. She's right, he said. Trust me, these Rai creatures are nothing to face alone. But if we travel together, they should give us a little trouble, right, Kopaka? Kopaka shrugged, doing his best to chill the impatience he felt in listening to this conversation. Why hadn't he already departed? I can't agree, Toa of Stone, he said. We should split up. As I already told you, I prefer to work alone. Pohatu looked slightly hurt. You may prefer it, he replied, but would you also prefer being chased by that sharp-horned beast if I hadn't been there to help you trap it? Enough of the bickering, Tahu broke in impatiently. We will accomplish nothing by standing here and having a debate. The decision is made. We split into small groups. It's the best of both worlds. Can't you see that? All I see is one who believes that power belongs to whoever shouts the loudest, Kopaka thought in disgust. Well, I, for one, am not ready to bow to such a leader. Not as long as I have life in my body. Tahu noticed Kopaka's stare. What thoughts lay behind his mask? The Ice Toa's silence and intense gaze made Tahu uneasy, though he didn't like to admit it, even to himself. It doesn't matter, Tahu told himself, pushing such feelings aside. There are more important things to worry about. The others were already back to arguing, several of them speaking at once. Crack! Suddenly, with no warning, the very earth yearned open in front of them, splitting the clearing in half. All around, the earth shuddered and trembled, smaller cracks opening here and there as the trees shook and birds took off into the air in a panic of cries. Jagged streaks of white-hot lightning streaked across the sky, striking down only a few lengths from where the Toa stood. Get back! Onua shouted as the air crackled with electricity and several trees and shrubs burst into flame. Tahu leaped away with the others, though the fire held no terror for him. What was happening? A huge bank of dark clouds rolled in above them, releasing a torrent of rain and hail. A violent gust of wind howled down from farther up the mountain. What kind of crazy storm is this? Liwa yelled over the noise of the pounding rain and shrieking wind. An earthquake, thunder, and lightning, rain and hail, and wind all at once? Golly shook her head, shielding her face against the driving wind. This can be no irregular storm, she cried. It must be the work of Makuta! As the word left her mouth, the storm suddenly stopped. The earth lay still. The only hint of the storm was the smoldering remains of the lightning-scorched foliage and the huge gaping fissure in the ground. Eerie, Pohatu remarked. Tahu nodded grimly. Clearly, Makuta knows we're here. There is no time to lose. We need to find those masks, now. Okay, I think I'm gonna call the stream, but first, a little discussion. I think that's a good place to stop because this first part of the book was about all the Toa meeting and figuring out what their objective is, and now they're off on a quest to look for the masks. But yeah, I kind of like it so far. I mean, I remember enjoying it as a kid, but yeah. Now I'm remembering like all these different things. By the way, here's a picture of the Toa in the back. Hang on, let me go to this thing again. Oh wait, no, right here. See, that's them right there. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, but this is like the first series that really got me into the lore of a universe. The whole thing about like the Great Spirit and like all these heroes that like represent the elements, and each hero has like its own like village. Like, imagine if each Power Ranger had its own village. Hmm. Sorry, my tooth hurts. I think I overdid it on the flossing. I mean, what I find interesting is that, you know, all the heroes are out there to look for the masks because, each mask gives them a different kind of power. In a way, it's kind of similar in the vein of Pokemon. You gotta, find each and every Pokemon, but in this case, it's masks. And on top of that, because again, this is essentially like a commercial because, it's a toy. And so this is going to persuade people who read this book to actually not only buy the toys, but to get the masks as well. Oh, and the reason why I'm wearing this shirt is because, it's like these kind of remind me of toy pieces, little blocks. So that's why I'm wearing it. Forgot to mention that earlier. But yeah, once I stop this live stream, I guess we'll find out if I'll get in trouble or not. Because if I do, then we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I doubt it too. But when I told my folks about it, they kind of freaked. I mean, I can't really blame them for showing concern though, because they're my folks, and yeah, exactly. I could not have said it better myself, Sam Kirby. I could not have said it better myself. Sure, I know you should chi. Much better. But yeah, I'll read the other half of this book tomorrow. Uh, you know, luck be willing. Yeah. So I want to thank you, Zam Kirby, and DJ and everyone else who tuned into this live stream. It really means a lot that you enjoy these things that I've been doing, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'll even post a little reminder tonight that the stream is gonna happen tomorrow. So thank you all again, and have a good rest of your day. Okay, bye.